We're back for the final riding episode of the Trailbike Field Test. After putting all the bikes through various climbing, descending, and pumping challenges in the last episode, this time, Matt and I chose our favorite bikes to take on a ride that encompassed some of the more technical trails in the Bentonville area. After that nice long ride, we rode some more, and then we sat down to discuss our favorites and our least favorites from this crop of trail bikes. Be sure to stick around to the end of the episode to find out the winner of the 2026 Trailbike Field Test. Welcome to day 3 of the Trailbike Field Test. We've completed our challenges, and now it's time to get ready for our big ride. Now, during those challenges, there was one bike that kept coming to the top of the list, and that was the Intense Spider.
I think this bike was built for that track. This feels like the fastest by far.
So Matt and I are going to battle it out and see who gets to take that bike on this big ride, because we want to see if it's as good as it seemed in the shorter challenges on a longer challenge.
For this long ride, we have a big loop laid out and covers a varied degree of terrain and trails. There are some techie descents and technical climbs.
I didn't dab and clip, but that was not a dab.
During those climbs, we wanted to make it a bit more fun and interesting for you. So if we do take any dabs on those uphills, we'll have to add a rock of choice from our competitors.
That one's kind of big. All right, there's Mike's rock.
That's my rock.
Add that to our packs, and whoever ends up with the least amount of rocks in their pack probably has the better trail bike too.
Yeah, these are pretty tricky trails. There's 3 different zones. The trails that we're going to be doing the no dab challenge on are called Zone 4, Apple Turnover, and Here's Johnny. Oh. So some of the most technical climbs in this general vicinity of where we are here in Bentonville. So
yeah.
Do 1, 2, 3, shoot.
1, 2, 3, shoot.
1, 2, 3, shoot. Spider. So we'll see if I don't get too many rocks in my pack.
All right, so I'll be on the Revel. That's gonna be my bike of choice. It was also another one that came up near the top of the list. There's a bunch of others here that would do well, but yeah, for this longer ride, looking for more endurance, efficiency, that would be my second bike of choice.
We're gonna get geared up, head out for the ride. We'll see who can dab the fewest times. Not a bad way to start a ride.
Whoa, huge mushrooms.
Yeah, those things are cool. I think their bridge budget must be pretty crazy here.
Yeah, they're not cheap to put in.
We got so many big bridges. All right, it's the Handcut Hollow. Very busy destination, you can tell by how busy it is.
This is where Mike did his tech uphill climb challenge. And just across the street, the zone we just finished on the downhill was where I did the perceived time trial as well. So good little zone with some pretty legit trails.
This is the part we did a climbing challenge, so I know this pretty well.
Heck yeah, uphill stunts.
I bet this gets slippery when it rains.
I bet.
Oh, damn it, dab.
Are you going climb switch open?
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest differentiator between these two bikes for climbing?
I mean, I think this one actually might be a little firmer than that one.
Yeah.
The Revel's kind of cushier.
It does make the rear end feel a touch shorter, even though on paper they're the same.
Yeah, it goes a little deeper. Are you still no dabs?
No dab, yeah.
Oh, nice. It's a hard climb.
That one's kind of big. All right, there's Mike's rock.
That's my rock.
Medium-sized palm rock.
Penance for putting a foot down. Zone 4 done, heading toward, or down checks in the mail. We'll head towards the Apple Turnover Trail. It's another tricky climb. I love how we climbed the top of a hill and somehow it's still uphill. Yeah, I mean, I could see for like a winter training destination.
Yeah.
If you just came for January or something. Whoa. Do you see how big that mushroom was? Taking a scenic break for the mushroom show. Look how big that mushroom is. And here's the start of our next thing, Apple Turnover. Goes uphill and it has rocks.
Very, very loose. High line.
I didn't dab and clip, but that was not a dab.
That's a hard trail. It was a couple almost.
I unclipped and my foot was here, but it didn't ever touch the ground. We're gonna go through a bridge and then another little commute over to the Kohler zone. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Got close. Yeah, we can go like the left split there. Oh, there's a cool big bird over there. This is one of those trails that you don't know which way you're supposed to ride it because it kind of is uphill both ways. But it's good and techy. Good trail bike trail.
Technical. Use that route. Bump up. Let's go. One of the harder bits. Clean. Yeah, good mix of traction and comfort on this.
Another wild bridge. Double. Oh, dang it. 2 rocks. Oh no, the wheels are falling off. Once you dab, it's hard to stop dabbing. Oh. I dabbed twice.
I dabbed in that one.
You did?
Yeah, I tried to go high in the berm and fast, and my front wheel got hooked. Oh, that's 2.
Rock punishment.
I don't know this part.
I don't either. Yeah, I've never ridden this.
Oh, Nelly.
Props to whoever's building the bridges. It's good to see. You win, 3-1. We already went almost 16 miles.
That's pretty good.
It's like 1,000 kilometers. Heading home for food. Big ride.
Big ride. All right, we just finished our long-ish ride. We did a tour of 2 or 3 different zones, pick out some harder climbs. Mike, how did your Spider choice turn out?
It's pretty good. I was happy on the bike, but I wasn't as happy with my performance because I had to bring home some things. I got 1 rock, 2 rocks. I had 3. Oh, this one counted as 2 somehow.
Yeah, it was a big one.
Yeah.
Big rock.
So
I
this
got
is
1
yeah.
dab.
Yeah, so this is how many times I put my feet on the ground, and that's how many times Matt put his feet on the ground. He won. He beat me.
But I almost broke my ankle, so I stepped in the hole.
But it was a good ride. The Spider was a good choice for that. Again, just kind of techie climbing. I think it was mostly uphill for the whole ride, so that bike was pretty good. Yeah.
Feels pretty easy to put the power down on that. Was it uncomfortable at any time, or like
no,
jittery?
Is, not really. I mean, we did one little descent that was kind of more rocky, and you do feel the edge to it. Where you don't like I've ridden the Revel on that similar trail, and the Revel has a little bit your swath of what you can be comfortable on. I think is a little wider.
Yeah, more forgiving. Still good support with the suspension, and yeah, it lets you kind of wheelie up and over obstacles. Definitely made it easier than some of the other bikes that we've taken through those trails. Yeah. So yeah, I felt good about this choice. Nice light bike. Feels like the right amount of fun and control on all the trails around here.
Yeah, I could make good choices. We saw a mushroom that was this big, taking a scenic break for the mushroom show. Look how big that mushroom is. A creature that was maybe that big. We don't know what it was yet, but he's on the GoPro, so we'll figure it out. Whoa, did you see that thing?
Yeah, what was that? Lowland marmot.
Yeah, I think so. That was kind of it. Yeah, not too many people out there. Just a nice XC-ish ride.
Yeah,
sweet.
We covered some ground, saw some sights.
It makes you tired around here, even though you don't get a ton of vert and cover that many miles. It's still a lot of work.
I like it. You kind of have to sprint to get up to speed and make use of the lower angle downhills that they have, so makes you ride hard.
Yeah. So that's the end of our challenge. Now we're going to put a bunch more miles on these bikes, and then we report back in our roundtable. You can kind of hear all of our impressions. The challenges are complete. We got a bunch more miles in on these bikes, and now it's time for our roundtable. We talk about the pros, the cons, the highs, the lows, our favorites for here, maybe our favorites for somewhere else. Let's kick things off with just kind of the way we do the reviews, climbing. You got all these bikes lined up. You get a ride with a bunch of climbing. What's your pick?
Well, I felt pretty good on the long ride on the Rascal. So I think I might go with that. Just has a really great balance of the right amount of traction and the right amount of support. So yeah, for me, that would be my bike.
That'd be mine too. Yeah. Even though in the climbing challenge, I think the Spider and the Canyon were both towards the top, because the Rascal, I hit a tree. Oh, I hit a tree. Uphill hitting trees. But ideally when I'm climbing, I don't hit trees. And I think the Rascal, yeah, they're kind of best all-around climber, especially on the techie stuff, which I like technical climbing. So I'd go the Rascal as well. About the bike you wouldn't want to bring on a ride with lots of climbs.
Well, for me, it's the Propain. It depends if it's technical climbing or not. Road climbing, Propain's great. Steep seat angle, low front end, very efficient on the gas, on the pedals. But when I got into some of these more technical trails up here in Bentonville, There's a lot of lungy moves, like up and over these steps, and whatever was going on with the suspension, I felt like it was oscillating too much, and I kept hitting the cranks, hitting the BB. That was the bike I actually stumbled on the most, even though we've got the Polygon with more travel, the Trek, the Canyon. Never had those issues with those bikes, so that one I just didn't jive with.
You're just too strong, you're pushing too much power, those thighs into the bike.
I don't know, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think mine would be the Salsa. I wouldn't want to go on a long, I mean, like, again, if it's more smoother, but I think for techie stuff, the Salsa just not as good in those techie climbs.
Definitely not forgiving, but I can appreciate the low front end and the firmer suspension platform on that bike. Also very short, compact rear end too, so for navigating uphill turns, the bike's shorter feeling, turns in easy, and then you don't get any weird front wheel washing or steering. Yeah, that one, I could see how that could work in some elements, but why other people wouldn't like it either.
Yeah. All right, well, we're done with the climbing part of our ride. We're gonna go down the hill now. Kind of a more trail bike style descent, similar to what you have around here. Some little pockets of steepness, but then some more rolling terrain, maybe kind of techie. Which one of these bikes do you pull on?
I might go with the Rascal again. I really did like the Intense. I felt as if that one was maybe more balanced, more planted on the smoother stuff. The Rascal a little more one-sided, where the back end felt shorter sometimes, but I think it was more the comfort that I got out of that. Both bikes delivered a lot of forward momentum when you really start pumping the ground, and that's really what I would say that the descents around here are like. You're looking to carry speed, generate momentum off the backside of little bumps and stuff, and that's where those two bikes stood out for me.
Yeah.
How about you? Same?
Yeah, the Rascal's still gonna be there. I think second place, I'm trying to think out second place, because we both agree, I think on the ups and the downs, out of all these bikes, for this zone that we're in, I think the Rascal gets the crown as the best trail bike for this area. But I think I'd put the Propain in second for descending. There's something about the way that bike works and the way it kind of makes you want to go faster. Maybe it's just in my head, because I feel like if I go faster, the suspension will open up more. But you can hit things pretty hard and it doesn't get rattled. You might get a little rattled because it's not the softest, but I do like the way that bike feels, and I think I like the longer chainstays on it. That'd be my second place descender for around here. I think if we're somewhere a little bit more rougher, I'd go with probably that Trek. That Fuel X might do well on somewhere a little bit longer distance, a little bit rowdier. But I think that kind of brings us to the question, if you had to take one of these bikes home with you to ride our trails at home, where they are again, a little bit steeper, a little longer, a little rougher in a different way. Yeah, out of this whole fleet, what's your Squamish bike?
I would probably toss it up between the Canyon and the Trek. I like the Trek because it's adaptable. You can change that progression flip chip. So here, I would definitely lean into the less progressive mode and get more energy when I pump into the bike. It would respond a bit quicker, it would feel like less travel. At home, I'd probably go for the progressive setting. This makes it a bit more supple off the top, and then you get more end stroke ramp up as well. So the bigger hits, we have a lot more like almost wheel size drops to square edge hits, just lots of undulating, steeper trails, whereas putting in the progressive mode here, you just lose a lot of that, trying to get through the suspension to the ramp. The Canyon would definitely be a very close second choice for me. Again, I've been riding it at home quite a bit. We rode it in Whistler last year, but I think that still holds true as a great descender. Yeah,
let's talk about the Canyon a little bit, because that was the whole reason we brought that bike out here. That was the winner of last year's Trail Bike Field Test. It also ended up snagging the Bike of the Year title last year. Matt's been using it kind of as a long-term test bike. We brought it out here to see if it's still relevant, which bikes tend to be relevant for more than a year, so that's not a surprise. But that bike was great here.
Yeah,
got out on some laps. It was really fun to compare it to these brand new bikes and see how it held up. I thought on some of the climbing and descending challenges that end up towards the top again. So kind of nice way to reinforce our picks last year. I didn't doubt our picks because we're always right. But yeah, the Canyon, they did a great job with that bike, with the shock tune and the overall geometry and kind of how it fits into that nice little fun, aggressive trail bike category. I don't think there's anything I would really change. I think it's still going to be relevant for the next while, presumably.
Yeah, I think that solidifies our decision last year and stacks it up against the current trends of trail bikes, as Mike mentioned. Both this and the Trek stand out, as well as the Polygon stand out for being very adaptable. All three bikes can run MX wheels. You can change the head angle. You can change the progression on the track, which we really like. So yeah, lots of adjustments to be had there, and they're able to be tuned to different regions, as we mentioned.
What about Canyon versus Rascal?
For somebody who favors pedaling and generating speed on flatter trails, the Rascal definitely gives you that edge. There's just a bit less travel to work through and the angles are a bit sharper. The overall wheelbase is shorter. So I feel like that bike, you can have more fun on flatter trails by creating these little rhythms and turning the bike in quickly, whereas the Canyon, a little longer wheelbase, a little slacker, you have to be going faster and down steeper trails in order to maximize that bike.
Yeah, kind of a little different suspension feel with the Canyon. It's kind of all about support. I think the analogy we used at one point was almost that memory foam kind of feel, where you're just kind of like pushing against something, where the Rascal's a little bit lighter feel. I really like both of them. Maybe a tough choice, but I think I like the Rascal a little more than the Canyon, but again, it's so terrain dependent, and I think if you ended up in somewhere with either one, I'm gonna fence sit on this because I don't think either bike would be the wrong choice. Over the last few years, trail bike geometry is kind of normalized. You know, there's not as wide of a range of numbers. There's variations, but they're not drastic. I think most companies have caught up. Now the focus seems to be on frame features, whether it's in-frame storage or geometry adjustments. Luckily, most of these bikes, all of them, hold a water bottle. It seems funny that used to be a thing we were pushing for years ago. But now with in-frame storage, do you think it matters? I feel like I've kind of drifted away from, I don't think it matters as much anymore. It wouldn't sway me from buying one bike or another. But what side of the fence are you on?
Personally, I don't really use it. I mean, as a reviewer, I tend to just wear a pack because we rotate through bikes so quickly. But at home, I'd probably reserve, if I did have a bike that had in-frame storage, I would reserve it for emergency items that I don't use daily. I'd want the pump outside the frame. I'd want the tool in the steer tube. I'd look for other things as well. Like, I'm glad that the internal cable routing through the headset has gone away for the most part. Most bikes seem to be carbon on tap here, so that definitely saves some weight. Adding the in-frame storage, I think, is reasonable. I don't think it's a make or break situation anymore. And as long as it doesn't add weight to the frame or add any other complication, like some of them are not well executed here, then I think it's something, definitely a selling point.
Yeah, it's a bullet point on the spec sheet.
And I don't think it really makes or breaks it anymore.
No, yeah, and I think, if you're gonna do in-frame storage, make sure it's good, and if not, then you don't have to worry about it. Let's say we have 7 bikes here, no in-frame storage, no in-frame storage, in-frame storage that works pretty well, in-frame storage that works very well, no in-frame storage that doesn't work well, in-frame storage that barely holds anything. So that's your rundown. And yeah, you can decide if you like in-frame storage or not.
Another aspect or element of trail bikes and just all bikes in general seems to be tailor-fitted geometry or size-specific chainstays in particular. A lot of these bikes have adjustments, but not all of them have that built in. We've got the Polygon. They do sort of a split with a small medium being one and then a large XL being slightly longer. The Trek, more variance across the sizes. The Intense, the Revel, the Propain, those are all the same. The Salsa's the same, and the Canyon's the same.
Yeah, so it seems like size specific. There's definitely some people are clamoring for it and other companies aren't responding, or maybe they just don't feel like it's important. I think it's nice if you can have the adjustment, and I do think that taller riders probably benefit from longer chainstays. Across the board, most of these are fairly short. I think the Propain has the longest chainstays at 445 millimeters. And we've been going back and forth between all these bikes, and it is pretty easy to adapt to different chainstay lengths. I think that even reach numbers too, I think it's really easy to get hung up on the numbers on a geometry chart. And it's important to look at those numbers, especially if you're riding a ton, you want your bike totally dialed to you, but it's also impressive how the human body can just adapt. It does come down to a matter of personal preference. Like, I don't think that the world wouldn't be a magically better place if all these had 490 chainstays suddenly, but I think the adjustment, or at least having them change depending on size, makes a lot of sense.
And what about wheel size? We've got trail bikes here, so ranging from 125 mils of travel out back all the way up to 145 in the longest. Would you put an MX wheel or a 27.5 rear wheel on any of these bikes here?
Yeah, I've done that in the past. Like, I ran that Trek Fuel EX with a 140 millimeter rear and 160 fork, and I like that, but I think that in general in this category, basically if it's less than 145 millimeters of travel, I prefer how the dual 29-inch wheels work. I just think it gives you that little extra rollover. You don't have that extra suspension to kind of take the edge off things. So personally, in this category, I'm good with the 29-inch wheel. I don't think it really even crossed my mind hardly at all during this week that if a different wheel size would be better.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I like the dual 29. I think it adds more stability to the bike, especially bikes on the shorter end of the travel spectrum, as well as the wheelbase. I think that you just are situated in between the wheels more, lowers that center of gravity for you and kind of locks you into the turns without having a huge battleship to turn.
Yeah, it helps you carry a little bit more speed. And most of these bikes, you're not going to be going down the gnarly, steepest stuff. And that's really where I tend to like a smaller rear wheel, just for the butt to tire clearance. And these ones, that's not really an issue. You have less suspension movement as well, so it's not coming as close to you. All right, well, we've talked about our favorites for climbing, for descending, for pedaling. Now it's time to pick our overall favorite, best trail bike out of this batch. I know what my favorite is. What's your favorite?
Revel Rascal. Yeah.
Same.
I know it's really hard to discern, and it's so subjective. It's a personal thing, but fun, coming down to fun on the trail, that's the bike I enjoyed riding the most. And I think the way you can equate that is how much excitement you get per use of energy, you know, like.
Yeah, it kind of rewards you. And I mean, both you and I and most riders like to be able to just kind of hit a little double and kind of sniper landing into a pocket and that kind of thing. And that's the bike that it works well for that. And yeah, especially in that travel bracket, you just want that bike to respond to your inputs. And I think that Revel did a great job with that. Super impressive. All right, it's unanimous. Matt and I both chose the Revel Rascal as our pick. Best trail bike out of this batch of bikes. But don't forget to check out all of the other field test content. If you missed it, we did an e-bike field test as well. So you can check out some full power e-bikes. Stefan and Dario were on those ones. We also have a bunch of individual reviews on the way you can watch. And we'll have a much longer, in-depth podcast coming where we go over all the details of all the bikes, pros, cons, and really pull things apart even further. But that's it for now. We might go sneak in another ride on these bikes before we have to leave. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.